Hey guys, welcome back to lecture series where we are discussing software testing questions which are previously asked from the year October 2012 till April 2017. So right now we are discussing unit 1 based questions. In previous unit we are already done discussing 3 of the questions which are already asked in unit 1. Now we'll continue our discussion further for the same, that is unit 1 only. So let's start discussing. So let's start discussing for the subject called software testing. My name is Professor Tirup Parmar, and here I'll be discussing this question with respect to all the analysis of previous year's university paper from October 2012 till April 2017. This is specially developed for TYBSc semester 5 for Mumbai University. And in last lecture, we are already done discussing all this question, that is error, failure, fault. Then second question which we discussed is what is defect, what are causes of defects, and when do arise, what is the cost of finding defects, which is already asked this particular question in April 2017, that is in a KT exam. Then we already discussed about cost of finding defects, as you can see in this particular diagram. We already discussed this part, and then in next part we already discussed done discussing quality and its components. Now onwards we'll be starting discussing about fundamental principles of testing. And as you can see, last year regular exam this question already appeared in that time's paper, so this becomes very important. Or if university does not ask direct question on principles of testing, then they might ask you question which is based on any one principle out of the 7 principles. Remember, we have 7 testing principles. So this is the basic definition. As you can see, टेस्टिंग इज एन अम्ब्रेला एक्टिविटी. अम्ब्रेला एक्टिविटी मीन्स जो भी हम लोग सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलप करते हैं, सो ईच एंड एवरी एस्पेक्ट ऑफ आवर सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट लाइफ साइकिल कवर्ड अंडर टेस्टिंग पार्ट. तो इफ वी मेड एनी मिस्टेक इन एनी पार्ट और एनी phase of software development life cycle, everything can be maintained or everything can be traced using proper testing. So why we do testing? To identify bugs, defects or faults present in our software, and this can be identified both by systematical as well as logical error present in software. So we can basically find out syntactical means syntax based error. There are some mistake made by user while developing that particular software, or we can say logical error present in our software. So as you can see here, we have this 7 principles. I have already provided this diagram, and if you can present 7 principles in this way, then it would be very efficient for an examiner to check, evaluator to evaluate your paper, and that will help you to fetch more marks. So as you can see, first principle is testing is context dependent. तो context होता है, every software comes with some context, some of the purpose. So we have to stick to those contexts only. How our customer is going to use that particular software, in that context only we need to use or we need to test that particular software. Then next is exhaustive testing is not possible. What we mean by exhaustive testing? It means trying each and every all type of combination, all type of trial and error, or trying software in each and every exhaustive manner, dragging the software till its maximum limit. That's not possible and it will waste most of your time. तो हम लोगों को क्या करना होता है, just try to test your software based on the way your software customer are going to use it, and try to check the basic concepts which our customers are going to use, those are working properly or not, by providing positive input as well as negative input. Positive input means provide correct data to your software which your software requires, or with the data which is demanded by your software, and try to check what your software provides output or generates output. And negative data input testing means provide wrong input to the software and check how your software reacts. Then same way early testing is always preferred. What we mean by early testing means ki on each and every phase of software development life cycle, test each and every phase. Testing should be applied on each and every phase. It means software development process starts from requirement gathering, then analyze, then we go for designing high level, low level designs. Then comes next part comes where we start developing that particular software. Then comes the part where we actually test the whole software, where comes like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance test, all this test appears. Then comes implementation and all this. There are many phases basically. So early testing is test your software on each and every phase. Then comes defect clustering. So if we have multiple modules present in our one single software, then club your errors or bugs based on those modules. So if we have, suppose if I'm trying to develop a software for a college, like we have three modules. One is student module, one is professor module, and third is principal module. So if we are facing some problem, or if we have some bug present in student module, then cluster those bugs differently. And if you find some defect or error present in professor's module or professor's part of that software, then segregate those parts different. So cluster defect clustering, that is also most important. Fifth principle is pesticide paradox, means providing same type of input each and every time or again and again while testing that particular software, that won't help. We need to test our software on every time. Provide some, try to test your software differently. As you can see, pesticides, if we apply same type of pesticides on same insects, sometimes those insects becomes very much familiar, or they resistant capacity is purely increased of those pesticides. और क्या होगा, वो जो insects है that won't be killed by our medicine. So if I'm spraying one same spray again and again on same insects, तो क्या होगा, वो resist हो जाएंगे, they become resistant to those particular types of medicines. And the same way here also, if you try to test your software by one same way again and again, then that's not possible to identify whether our defects are solving or not. So that's very difficult, and hence we need to apply, or we need to go for different types of data, or provide different types of data to test your software differently. And next comes testing shows presence of defects. Obviously it is a common sense why we test our software, to check whether there are defects present in our software or not. And final part, as you can see, absence of errors is fallacy. So you will not find, never there is a software which comes without any error or problem. So it's our duty to find whether there are error present or not. And second thing, if your error are not present, it doesn't mean the user is going to accept your software. User acceptance test clears when all the requirement provided by user with respect to that software is covered properly in a development phase. Then only user is going to accept your software. So absence of error is fallacy, means there are no possibility. Every software comes with some or the other types of error. We should test our software properly to identify those errors. So let's discuss. As you can see, I have given or provided those points here as well. Principle 1, testing shows that defects are presence of defects, but cannot prove that there are no defects. Remember, testing cannot prove that there are no defects. Defects are always present there. Testing reduces the probability of undiscovered error. तो अगर हम लोगों ने प्रॉपरली टेस्ट कर लिया है, सो व्हेन वी डिप्लॉय आवर सॉफ्टवेयर टुवर्ड्स कस्टमर और क्लाइंट साइड, वो टाइम पे कस्टमर और क्लाइंट विल फेस लेस एरर और प्रॉब्लम्स, एंड दैट विल मेंटेन आवर इमेज एज वेल एज क्वालिटी ऑफ आवर सॉफ्टवेयर. Second principle, as you can see, testing everything, all combinations of providing all types of input and checking what type of output our software generates. That is not possible. So trying or testing your software in all possible combinations is not possible. Next is testing activity should start as early as possible. As we already discussed, testing activity should be done on each and every phase of our software development life cycle. That's what we mean by early testing. Then fourth principle, as you can see, where we clusters our defect based on some different modules which are present in our software. So as you can see, small number of modules contain most of defects discovered during pre-release, means before releasing the software. So we need to cluster those defects differently and try to solve those defects as well. Then next principle, as we already discussed, pesticide paradox, that is, if the same tests are repeated over and over again, that won't help you to identify new defects which are present in our system. So hence, to overcome this pesticide paradox, the test cases need to be regularly reviewed and revised. Always try to test your software in some different aspect by providing some different data and try to check how it reacts. Then principle 6, as you can see, testing is context dependent, means different testing is done differently in different dependent contexts. For example, a safety critical software is tested differently from an e-commerce site. So if we talk about banking software, so there we need to more emphasize on money transaction part, because that's the most important part of any particular software which is basically used for banking purpose. At the same time, if we talk about e-commerce site like Flipkart, Amazon or something like that, that time we also need to emphasize on how we can basically segregate our customers, what is the experience of our customer, if they are facing some problem, that also we need to test. And at the same time, if they are providing some confidential information with respect to their credit card or banking detail, that should be stored in very safe and secure manner. So all those things we need to test. So testing should be context dependent, as it means as and when type of software changes, the way or pattern how we are going to test that software, that also changes. And seventh principle, as you can see, absence of error finding and fixing defects does not help in policy. It means that there are no way present that if your software is perfect, that means users are going to accept it. If you don't find any defects in your software, it doesn't mean that users are going to accept that particular software, because solving defects is different thing. Users does not care how many defects you have actually solved on while testing that particular software. What users are actually concerned with, if you are trying to solve those defects, but what are the features which you have added in that particular software. If features are not fully covered in that particular software, then that will create a problem for the users, and users are not going to accept that particular software. Now next part what we are going to discuss, as you can see, next question is explain the fundamental test process. As you can see, this question already asked twice, that is in April 2017 this KT exam and in 2015 also. And explain the activity of fundamental test process, which test environment is set up. So this question is again asked same type of question. Remember, they have just twisted a question, but we have to write the similar type of answer for both this questions. So first question which was asked in November 2015, then April 2017, and same way again repeated in November 2016 as well. So as you can see in this particular notes, I have already provided this handy point. So if you don't remember anything in our software testing part, then try to remember or memorize this handy points, which you can use or which you can use while writing any specific answer in software testing unit 1 based questions or unit 2 based questions as well. These are very handy points, very technical points. So if you cannot memorize much of the things, then try to memorize at least this many points, so that you can use these points while writing. These are the handy points, you can say, you can utilize for to write any answer based on software testing. So let's start discussing about this particular question. So what is the question? As you can see, fundamental test process. So I have provided one diagram here, as you can see. So this diagram, if we discuss about this particular diagram, it is very similar to our software development life cycle. As you can see, first part comes like testing, planning and control. Second part we talk about analyzing or analysis, then design the software, and once design is ready, go for implementation, that is coding part. And now if there are, while implementing a software, if you find some defects here, then we need to recode it. That means fix component or test cases scripts and repeat the testing, that is called as retesting. That means try to modify the code, try to change the code which is basically hampering or stopping the execution of your process, and then again test it or repeat the test process. And if you find that there are actually problem in design, then we need to again go to this particular part, that is fix the design first and test it again, and then go for development part. Now once the coding is done, then next part comes is evaluation criteria, exit criteria, reporting. That means when we should launch that particular software in market, or when should we go for deployment process. Means if our software is ready, then we should launch it or hand over it to customers. But while providing exit criteria, if we find that there are some mistakes in designs, then we again go to redesign our software and repeat the whole this 3 steps again. And while actually evaluating our software in a final stage, if we find that the way we have actually planned the things, those planning are wrong, then we need to start from first phase again, as you can see. And at final stage, at reporting stage, if we find everything is well, then just close the test activity and hand over that software. That's it. So that's what we mean by fundamental test process. uh, as you can see, this is the simple SDLC diagram only, just a modified version of SDLC diagram. So let's discuss the points which are important with respect to this particular question. So fundamental test process, as you can see, uh, when to launch our software, which part we should develop again. All this decision about the level of formality of the test process depends on the system and software context. So very simple thing, as you can see, the activities are divided, fundamental test activity divided in this particular parts. 5 parts are there. First is planning control, which we already discussed in that particular diagram. Then comes analysis, design, implementation, execution, evaluating exit criteria and reporting, and last is test closure activity. When to stop testing, test closure activity means. So I have provided each and every points in detail here, and it is very simple, as we already know most of thing out of this particular part. Like we already discussed, or we already learned most of thing in software engineering, that is your SY subject as well. So test, planning, activity and control. Planning means plan how we are going to develop that particular software and where to stop and what things we should add there. So test, planning, activity, as you can see, verifying the mission of testing. What is the actual mission of testing? We should not deviate our path. Always make a script, write down points, jot down those points, how and what is the purpose of that particular software and how we should test it. So we should not deviate our path or deviate our mission from testing software in that particular manner. That's the main objective. As you can see, objective of testing and specification of test activity in order to meet the objective of our mission. Test control is ongoing activity of comparing actual progress against the plan. So we always need to check that as per the plan, we have decided that this much software should be tested within 2 days, 3 days or 1 week, and actually go and check that is the plan is actually following or not, or whether we are lagging. And same way, we also need to maintain a report of a status of testing. Now remember, including deviation from the plan. So if we are deviated or if we miss the plan and we started testing some other part as well, which is actually very important, then we should maintain that part as well. And the same way, as you can see, I have provided other points. Now the final point is testing planning takes into account the feedback from monitoring and control activities. So feedback is very important. After every testing, we should take in account the feedback from the people who are actually monitoring and controlling all these activities. Next is test, analysis and design. So what we mean by analysis and design activity, where general testing objective are transformed into tangible. Tangible means actual real life software conditions and test cases. So these are the points which we need to basically write while writing answer for test, analysis and design. Major tasks are review the test basic, like such as requirement, architecture and design and interfaces are correct or not. That's what we mean by test basis. Then next part comes where we need to evaluate testability of test bases and test objects. Now remember which are the objects and what are the bases, what data we should provide, what is the way how customers are going to use that particular software. All those things are very important. Identify and prioritize test condition. Priority means set the level of importance within our software, which part is the most important part. So those part or those conditions or those operations we should test very properly. So we need to provide a priority to each and every part. So as you can see, based on this analysis, test items, the specification and behavior of and structure are identified. Then same here also I have provided a point, identify necessary test data to support the test condition and test cases. So we need to actually identify how our users are going to use that particular software, what type of data they are going to put in that particular software. So we need to first identify necessary data which is required to test our software, and that type of data only we need to add while testing. Same way, last point is also very simple. Now next part of our question, where we actually going to talk about, as you can see here, where we talk about implementation and execution. Implementation means the coding activity, and try to execute those code. As you can see, the testing implementation and execution is activity where test procedure or script are specified by combining test cases in a particular order. So if we have multiple feature present on our software, then we need to specify after this feature which feature should come. We need to provide a roadmap, like once the user login into your software, तो उसके बाद what he can see is actually his profile or what operations he can perform. The same way we need to execute our software in the same manner, remember. So as you can see, I have provided few major tasks when we talk about this particular part. So what are the major tasks? Let's discuss it. So developing, implementing and prioritizing test cases. So we have to memorize that which are the most important part from our software. So we need to provide them highest priority, highest level of importance while testing as well. Developing and prioritizing test procedures and creating test data. So test data, which type of data we should insert while testing our software, that's also very important. Then same way, we also need to, as you can see, test harness and writing automated test scripts as well. So automated test scripts means just use some automation testing where some softwares or automation testing. As you can see, automatic testing means some softwares are going to test our software and then just note down the scripts or just note down the output which is generated by those software. Then the next part, as you can see, creating test suites. So here we actually going to prepare a plan how and when which part should be tested if we have a software which is of a e-commerce site. So all those test procedures should be prepared in a test suite. We are actually going to prepare a plan for each and every, how we are going to test each and every phase. That's our plan. So prepare that test suite and follow it very strictly, and verifying that the test environment has been set up correctly or not. What we mean by test environment, if our users are going to use that particular software on very low configuration based computers, then we should test that particular software and exact same or try to make the environment is similar where users or how users are going to use in which particular type of an environment. Environment means which computer or configuration based computers or mobile they are going to use, which type of internet they are going to use, all those things comes here. Then executing test procedure either manually or by using execution tools. So as you can see, according to our plan sequence, we are going to go for manual testing or we are going to use some testing tools for our for the better result or for quick operations. Then same way, logging the outcomes of test execution and recording the identities and versions of software under test tools. Same way, comparing actual result with expected result. So we need to again test that, okay, as per our development and as per our efforts which we have added in that particular software, we have actually expected that this software should result or this software should work at this much speed and it should support this many customers for this kind of a purpose. So we need to actually check that whether our expectation are reached or not. And the same points I have divided here. As you can see, we need to find defects in our code and many other points. And then if we find any defects, then repeat the testing activity, like solve those defects and repeat those activity again. And same way, we also need to go for, as you can see previously, if there are some execution which are previously failed because of any XYZ reason, for example syntactical error or providing some wrong data, anything, then we also need to go for confirmation testing, which is also called as retesting. What we mean by retesting or confirmation testing, where in retesting or confirmation testing, we actually say that we have find some defects while executing our software. So solve those defects and re-execute that particular part of software only and check whether those defects or errors are solved or not. That's what we mean by confirmation testing. And other things, as you can see, the final part after retesting or confirmation testing, that second part comes, that is regression testing. Now, while testing, we might find some defects present in our software. For example, if we talk about software like a Facebook, so we identified that there are some defects present in a video calling facility which is provided by Facebook. So we have modified some part of code with respect to that video calling facility. We modified that code and then again we are going to check that now video calling works properly, efficiently or not. So in confirmation testing or retesting, what we say that we find some defects in some or the other part of our software, we solve those defects or we recoded that particular part of our software, and then check whether that part which we have solved is working properly or not. That's it. And when we talk about second, that is regression testing, here we talk about that we have solved or we have modified one part of a software, and it might possible it leads to some disturbance in some other part of a software. So in regression testing, if we identify and solve any defect in any part of a software, then again we need to test the whole software just to check if we have solved one defect, then it might possible it has disturbed other parts of our software also. So just to check those impact analysis is very important. So confirmation testing is retesting. Check if we find a defect in any one part of a software, solve that defect and check that part of a software only. And when we talk about regression testing, if we have made changes in any one part of a software, it might possible it leads to or it hamper any software any other part of our software also. So we need to test the whole software again if we have made changes in any one part. That's what we mean by regression testing. Now, so remember, confirmation testing is done manually, and regression testing where on changes of or on the resolution of any one defect, again and again test the whole software. So manual testing is very time consuming. So in regression testing we go for automation or automatic testing, where we use direct some automating testing tools. I hope this particular part is clear. Now last part, as you can see, where we talk about exit criteria and reporting. So I have provided some basic definitions here. Now let's just discuss about the major task of exit criteria. So what are the major tasks? Checking test logs. Logs means like a diary where we basically provide each and every detail. So if we have made any changes, or if we have added, or if we have rectified any defects, every activity performed by users are maintained in this type of test logs, remember. So accessing this, more tests are needed, or if exit criteria specified should be changed. So here we basically check that we have tested our software for so long with this many types of conditions. Now whether our software is ready to launch or not, that's what we basically decide based on the result or based on the logs prepared by our testers, software testers. Writing a test summary report for stakeholder is very important, where we are going to specify them in how many ways, in how many patterns we have tested our software. That's very important. Now next part, where we talk about, as you can see, where we talk about test closure activity. So what is test closure activity? It means when to stop testing. So test closure activity collects the data from complete test activity throughout the phases, whatever test done till now. All those activity, all those reports are consolidated, and that is called as consolidated experience of our software, and that's what we combine, and based on that we define that now whether we should stop our testing or not. So for example, when a software is released, the test project is completed or cancelled, a milestone has been achieved, or maintained release has been completed. So whenever we talk about testing our software, we divide the defects or problem in three categories, as you can see: critical, major, minor. Critical means the one of the most important error or bugs which stops your software from working. So we need to solve those problems while testing. Then major, you can say major type of defects which might hamper your performance of a software or might lead to failure in future. So we need to solve those defects as well. And minor, those are very small warnings or some problem which might be solved in later, after releasing your software. In later updates of a software we can solve those defects. So here when we talk about closure activities, test closure activities, so we basically check whether those critical and major problem are solved or not. Once those problem are solved, we can release our software, or our software is ready to release. So as you can see, closure activity, major task. What are the major tasks? As you can see here, so checking first, what we say, checking which plan deliverables has been delivered, or incident reports or rising of change records and remain open, and documentation of acceptance of the system. So we have notified few of the errors, so all error or defects are solved or not. First thing we have to check that, or is there any incidents of some failure or some fault again reported by any of our tester or any of our customer. We need to check that as well. And finally we go for acceptance, where we basically sit with customer and check the requirement which are provided by our customer, all those requirements are fulfilled or not. And finally, as you can see, finalizing and archiving testware, test environment and test infrastructure and for later use. So we will basically provide store all this activity at one place, so that for other types of those type of if we are developing other software of a similar type, then we can use the same test script, same infrastructure for those other softwares as well. And in maintenance part as well, we can again use those particular environment infrastructure, so that we can better test that particular software. I hope this particular point is clear. Now the next question which we are going to discuss. Now remember, for this question I have provided all these points, but you don't need to write all these points. Just try to memorize the most important points from here and write it in your own words. Now the next question which we are going to discuss is, what is quality? Explain quality viewpoint for producing or buying software. So what we mean by quality? Now remember, when we talk about quality, the basically if we say quality, definition of quality changes from person to person. If we talk about developer, what we mean by quality with respect to developer says that if some software works properly and it is easy to change or modify. So if we need to use some cheap technology through which we can easily develop our software, we can provide a proper support to our customers as well. That's what we mean by quality. Definition of quality with respect to our developer. If we talk about quality definition with respect to our users, so the definition of quality changes from users as well. What users expect: software should work properly, it should not get hanged, or there should not be any failure should be faced by that customer. So it should provide a quality result to customers. That's what the expectation of users with respect to quality. So as you can see, I have provided the diagram for a quality. So supplier says that enhance customer confidence in our software. That's what definition of quality with respect to suppliers or developer who develop a software, and time to time improve the strength of their brand, and at the same time reduce the business risk such as accident caused by product. So their main responsibility, if we say with respect to quality, is reduce the failure time of their software and try to improve the recovery time if there are some incident, or if there are some crashes, or suppose the software got crashed. So recovery time should be very less, or it should be very quick, so that customer won't face more problems, and time to time improve or make changes to improve the experience of the user. That's what definition of quality with respect to supplier. The same way, now there are some viewpoints from users as well. Proper selection of product is very important from users perspective. Product should be safe to use. I mean, if they are storing the very confidential data on that particular software, then security wise those software should be very proper, and a sense of security offered by independent assessment, that should also be provided here. So now if users are not enough confident, or if they are not much aware ki which software they should choose, so what they can do, they can approach a third party who is actually expert in this type of activity. तो क्या होगा, third party will help user to decide which software or which product is best for their company, and they are going to deal with supplier just to mention them that this customer is mainly dealing in such type of activity, so they need software of such types. So third party are specially advise, they basically provide their advice and expertise to a user who are non-technical. Remember, they are the third party. So there are many companies in market who basically whose work is just to help the customers or users to identify which type of software is required and which features should be added while they go for developing any particular type of a software. So that's the role of third party. So as you can see, definition of third party with respect to quality is enhancing users' peace of mind via objective assessment by third party or experts. So as you can see, we have discussed three definition of quality: one with respect to supplier, one with respect to third party, and one with respect to users. Now you have to memorize, or I mean try to draw such diagram in exam as well, and then we need to write points which I have provided here. So the same thing which we discussed here, as you can see, diverse viewpoint of supplier and marketing, developer and marketing person. So what developer thinks about quality: I want easy to understand and cheap to modify type of a technology for our software which we are going to use for our development, to develop a software. So developer sochega we need some technology which is very easy to understand and very cheap to modify as well in future if we find some defects. Or if we talk about marketing person or customer, they says that we need to use some, or we need to follow some ways through which we can provide a low risk and easy demonstration of that particular software. That's what the definition of quality with respect to marketing person. So as you can see, I have provided points here. Quality is degree to which a component or a system or process meets specified requirements and or users customer needs and expectation. कस्टमर के हिसाब से डेफिनेशन क्या होगा? क्वालिटी इज फिटनेस फॉर यूज. सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर के हिसाब से क्वालिटी इज कंफर्मेशन ऑफ स्पेसिफिकेशन, मींस जो भी स्पेसिफिकेशन प्रोवाइडेड बाय यूजर, ऑल दो स्पेसिफिकेशन, ऑल दोस फीचर्स शुड बी एडेड इन अ सॉफ्टवेयर. वही होगा डेफिनेशन ऑफ क्वालिटी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू आवर सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर. एंड अदर बिलीव्स, एज यू कैन सी, यहाँ पे मैंने वो सारे डेफिनेशन आई हैव प्रोवाइडेड हियर. सो मीट कस्टमर स्टैंडर्ड्स. लेट मी जस्ट जूम अ बिट. हाँ, so as you can see, other beliefs क्या क्या रहेंगे? Other beliefs is meet customer standard means general usage. Just check, try to follow international body or rules as well. General usage हो सकते हैं. I mean, if we are using any operating system, so that operating system is used by all over world by many users. So we need to follow international rules as well, national rules as well, and meet and fulfill customers needs, business requirements, that most important, and customer expectations. अगर आपका सॉफ्टवेयर प्रॉपर वर्क नहीं हो रहा है, हैंग हो रहा है, और इट इज़ नॉट सपोर्टिंग ऑल द एनवायरनमेंट, देन एक्सपीरियंस जो है वो डाउन जाएगा एंड कस्टमर विल मूव टू अदर सॉफ्टवेयर्स. एंड सेम वे, as you can see, understand future business needs as well. So whenever we start developing software for any particular user, remember that they are going to expand their business. We have to consider that point as well. So we need to choose a technology, or we need to develop a software in a such a way so that we can expand that software very easily in future as well whenever user demands it. Then quality must be defined in measurable terms to use it as a reference. And some viewpoints, as you can see, quality हिसाब से. So what are the viewpoints? So let's discuss those viewpoints. One is, as you can see, one is customer based definition. So what is a customer based definition of quality? Quality product must have fitness for use, मतलब proper चलना चाहिए. That's the definition of customer point of view. मैन्युफैक्चर बेस्ड डेफिनेशन अगर देखेंगे तो डेवलपर साइड से डेफिनेशन क्या होगा? कंफर्मेशन बेस्ड रिक्वायरमेंट्स. कंफर्मेशन टू रिक्वायरमेंट मीन्स जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट प्रोवाइडेड बाय यूजर, ऑल दोज फंक्शन शुड और फीचर्स शुड बी एडेड इन आवर सॉफ्टवेयर. एंड देन प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड डेफिनेशन अगर हम लोग बोलेंगे क्वालिटी का, क्या होगा? प्रोडक्ट मस्ट हैव समथिंग दैट अदर सिमिलर प्रोडक्ट डू नॉट हैव. तो अगर मार्केट में रहना है एंड वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग सेम टाइप ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर विच इज प्रोवाइडेड बाय मेनी अदर डेवलपर और कंपनीज, देन वी शुड प्रोवाइड सम एक्स्ट्रा फीचर्स और एक्स्ट्रा क्वालिटी इन अ सॉफ्टवेयर so that we can attract more customers. Then same way, value based definition अगर बोलेंगे क्वालिटी का तो क्या होगा? Many time it is claimed that people do not buy product, they buy benefits. So that this is the most important point. आज के टाइम में if we purchase any service as well, अगर आप वोडाफोन या रिलायंस कार्ड भी परचेस करते हो and if you talk to their customer service, then immediately you will get one SMS or one email stating that please give your feedback with respect to our service, whether you are satisfied with our service or not. So that will basically enhance customer experience. So next time customer आपके पास आएंगे, that you are approaching, they are treating you like you actually value to them. अगर हम लोग गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस में जाते, they don't care whether you come or go. They don't provide proper feedback to us, or they don't basically uses that survey pattern as well. And hence when we talk about government services, people's viewpoint is very poor, and hence to maintain a proper name in a market, we have to provide a proper service, and we also need to take feedback time to time from our customers as well. I hope this particular point is clear. So as you can see, we are done discussing this two question, and the last question and for this lecture which we are going to discuss is psychology of testing. So psychology, same points there. Remember, in software testing, most of question which we are going to discuss, for that we need knowledge of previous question. So यहाँ पे भी अगर हम लोग देखेंगे, the psychology of software testing depends from person to person. Psychology means क्या, why we need a testing, why we should go for software testing. तो software developer का viewpoint क्या है on software testing? It is a process to prove that software works correctly. तो developer ने develop किया है कुछ तो, and developer will say that I have developed this feature, I have added this feature in my software, and those features are working properly. So it means software testing हो गया. And when we talk about software tester, actual person who are going to test that particular software, उनकी viewpoint से क्या होगा? उनका viewpoint या software testers का main काम होता है to identify or to check or say that this particular feature does not work properly, or identify maximum defects out of that software. Remember, developer का psychology क्या होता है? Just to show or prove that we have developed this particular feature for this particular software, and all those features are working fine. And when we talk about software testers, उनका काम ये होता है try to show or try to identify maximum defects from that particular software. Why? Because अगर हम लोगों ने maximum defect before software delivery अगर identify कर दिए, तो future में customer won't face any much problems and quality of a software will be maintained. So as you can see, psychology factor influencing the success of our software. What are those points? So let's discuss. First point what we are going to discuss is clear objective for testing. Next is proper role and balance self-testing. The same thing, nothing more difficult. I think you can read out these points. So let's discuss main points. Independent testing. Now what we mean by independent testing means testing is not going to be done by any of the internal member of developers team. We are actually going to hire, or we are going to hand over our software to any third party who are going to test that particular software. That's what we mean by independent testing. So as you can see, developer looks positively to solve problem in design code and software to meet specification need. Tester reviewers critically look and the product work properly with the intention to find defects. So testers का काम क्या हो रहता है? Main to identify the defect. There are several stages to review testing carried out throughout the life cycle of software, जहाँ पे independent reviews and testing are most important part. Remember, whenever we talk about testing, वहाँ पे independent testing is most important, because if any third party gives you an assurance that yes, this particular software works properly, or these are the defects which we actually identified, and developer actually solved those defects, then we can very well assure that we can use that particular software. So वही है यहाँ पे. So let's discuss degree of independent testing. Avoid, as you can see, कि अगर डेवलपर अगर अपने रिव्यूज देंगे टेस्टिंग के बारे में, इट माइट बी बायस. कस्टमर जो है वो अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ज़्यादा सोचेंगे, एंड हेंस वी नीड एनी थर्ड पार्टी जस्ट टू क्रैक द डील और जस्ट टू क्रैक द आइस बिटवीन सप्लायर एंड डेवलपर. तो उसके लिए वी बेसिकली यूज थर्ड पार्टी, और थर्ड पार्टी जो है दे आर well expert in this particular part. So as you can see, testing by author or developer of a software. उसके बाद क्या होगा? Testing by another member in developers team. उसके बाद होगा testing done by testers from, so testing done by testers from another organization or group like independent testing team. And उसके बाद क्या होगा? Testing by testers from different organization, company like outsourcing testing. और उसके बाद वो कोई कंपनी जो है जिनका काम क्या रहेगा? आउटसोर्स करना ये सॉफ्टवेयर को और कोई थर्ड पार्टी को देना, एंड दैट थर्ड पार्टी विल आफ्टर टेस्टिंग दे विल प्रोवाइड यू विद अ सर्टिफिकेट, और ये सर्टिफिकेट व्हेन वी हैंड ओवर टू आवर कस्टमर दे एक्चुअली गोइंग टू ट्रस्ट आवर सॉफ्टवेयर. जैसे ISI मार्क आता है ऑन मैनी प्रोडक्ट, और ISO सर्टिफिकेशंस आता है. सो व्हाट आर दो सर्टिफिकेशंस? दे बेसिकली check the quality provided by you to your customers, and based on the quality of your product they provides you this type of an marks. So this is all. We are done with this particular part. In next lecture onwards, we'll be starting about question number 8, that is degree of independent testing and what we mean by that. So we are done discussing this many questions. Thank you. See you in the next lecture. And one more thing, if you have any doubt or query, feel free to write your queries in a comment section. And second thing, if you want to download these notes, a link to download these notes is also provided in video description section. Thank you and bye bye.